but there's a lot of people who predict things and are wrong. No one predicted Indiana to win the national championship in football before the season began. In fact, Kurt Signetti and the Hoosiers were constantly ripped because they didn't play anybody out of the Big Ten conference schedule. So when we go into something like this, I always caution you, preseason expectations. Was it really supposed to be the Twins? The Twins were supposed to stink. Maybe the Twins are better than you and I thought. Not saying they are, because it's been 12 games and they're playing 500 ball. Not a big deal. But coming into this season, I thought Toronto would get off to a really good start. They're 5-7. So wrong there. You thought Seattle might be pretty damn good right out of the gate, right? Look at what they've added. Look at how good they are. Love their starting pitching. They're 4-9. Baseball is very strange when it comes to that stuff. Philadelphia Phillies spend a lot of money. No one spent more than Toronto, and they're under 500. Phillies spend a lot of money. They're 500. Okay? The Cubs. Oh, look at how good Chicago is going to be. 500. San Diego, 500. It's not a huge deal right now. There's plenty of people right now in various cities, in baseball cities, who are somewhat freaking out because their team's not very good. I'm not saying everything's great with the Tigers, and I'm not saying that Minnesota is going to win the division. I'm just saying we're not always preseason correct. That's all. Framber Valdez, who I thought was a fantastic signing. I think most people did. He gets roughed up. He allowed, in 5 innings, 8 runs and 10 hits. The 8 runs ties a career worst for him. You can call it a career high, either way, but it's the worst he's ever started a game. Dylan Dingler had the big night offensively, 3 for 4, and an RBI. Tigers have lost 4 in a row. Now, you got to hope Jack Flaherty salvages 1 from the 4-game set. And that's not a great sign.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you're just hoping Jack Flaherty has a good start in general at this point.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. Look, it doesn't help that Tarek Skubal only lasted 4 1/3 the other night, right? It doesn't help that Casey Mize got lit up in the first game of the series. So I understand why some people have a little angst associated with this, because you're supposed to beat Minnesota. I would remind you that it's not about winning every game. It's about winning series. And Detroit didn't win the series. There is a uniqueness to what they've gone through so far this year that maybe we'll get to. I've spoken about it in the Den segment a little bit later on here on the network. Red Wings are going to host Philly tonight. Detroit is down 3 points to Ottawa for the final wild card. Flyers own the final spot in the Metro, the third spot in the Metro. 2 teams split their first 2 meetings. Phillies won 7 of 10. Detroit is winless in 7 of 10. That's the way these are both going. They have just a handful of games left. 4 games left. Is that right? Yeah, 4 games left.
That's correct. And don't forget Saturday's fan appreciation night too.
That's correct. What do you think they have to do to reach the postseason in the next 4?
Pretty much went out. I don't think you could really think about it in any other way when you have to pass the team ahead of you with, they're 3 points up now because you gave up the extra one.
Yep.
So maybe you could let one slip, but I don't think you can have that mindset going in.
No, I don't think they have that mindset. Matter of fact, I would argue that every single team has the mindset that they're going to win every game. Okay, even though it's not realistic, but that's the mindset. So I don't think they look at the final 4 games and go, all right, we just got to win 3 out of the 4. No. Ottawa has Florida left, the Islanders left, New Jersey, and Toronto.
The Islanders are right there in the mix in the middle of all this too. So,
yeah, well, they've been spiraling. That's why they fired Patrick Waugh. So I think you're right. I think you're right. They're right behind the Red Wings. They have the same number of points as the Red Wings. So if I'm going to say that the Red Wings are in it, then you have to admit you're right that also the Islanders are in it. But they have been really struggling just like Detroit. They've lost 4 in a row. Suddenly they've They have a goal differential of minus. They've lost 7 of 10. That's the reason they made the change. Okay.
Yeah, just thinking about like teams that you would hope, the main competition they're going against that they need to pass to get into the playoffs. At least the Islanders, I guess, will be, trying to win that game or not sitting people or, anything like that.
So Detroit has Philly, New Jersey, Tampa, and Florida. Very similar to what Ottawa has. So that's what you're going to have to get done. And they've lost 3 straight, as I've mentioned, and 5 of their last 6. It's an ugly, ugly trend for the Red Wings that can change over the next couple of days because they've got 2 home games, Philly and New Jersey, and then 2 road games. All right, preview of the Masters coming up. Talks of Cade Cunningham, Tigers flailing a little bit, and a whole lot more coming up on this edition on a Tullymore Thursday of X's and Bros, brought to you by Mitch Lanswell.
The Freddie the Pizza Man Foundation is dedicated to providing support to families and Michigan schools touched by autism. We invite you to join us in supporting these families and schools by making a donation at freddythepizzaman.com. With your donation, you can help provide essential resources that can make a real impact. Visit freddythepizzaman.com to make a donation and to learn more about the foundation's mission. That's FREDI thepizzaman.com. Together, we can make a difference.
Hear that? That's the sound of saving a good deal more when you shop with M-Perks at Meijer. Some delicious Cosmic Crisp apples, money saved. Meijer Essential Paper Towels, that's money saved. Savings, savings, savings. Because every dollar spent is also points earned in M-Perks, which you can use to save on your next grocery trip or up to $1 off per gallon on your next tank of gas. At Meijer, we work hard to help you save a good deal more for a whole lot less. That's bringing more good to life. Exclusions apply. See mperks.com for details.
What's up, Michigan? You're listening to my good friend Shep. The Huge Show is coming up later today at 3, right here on the Michigan Sports Network. What's up, Michigan? You're listening to Shep. Don't forget the Huge Show later today at 3 on the Michigan Sports Network.
Just a lot of resting. Couldn't get my heart rate up, which was boring. My heart rate went up a few times watching it.
Hear that? That's the sound of saving a good deal more when you shop with M-Perks at Meijer. Some delicious Cosmic Crisp apples, money saved. Meijer Essential Paper Towels, that's money saved. Savings, savings, savings. Because every dollar spent is also points earned in M-Perks, which you can use to save on your next grocery trip or up to $1 off per gallon on your next tank of gas. At Meijer, we work hard to help you save a good deal more for a whole lot less. That's bringing more good to life. Exclusions apply. See mperks.com for details.
Just a lot of resting. Couldn't get my heart rate up, which was boring. My heart rate went up a few times watching the team, which was, but it was fun. It was fun to be able to watch from a different perspective like that. I think I learned a lot. And, watching the team grow the way that they did and handle business the way they did was a lot of fun. So, but I'm glad I'm back. I'm glad I'm working out. I've had a great ramp up to where I am today.
That's Cade Cunningham after playing 26 minutes, scoring 13 points, 10 assists, and the Pistons blowout win over Milwaukee last night. The Pistons, I think the underrated thing about the Pistons this year is they do what they're, for the most part, right? I mean, nobody's perfect. No team is perfect, but they do what they're supposed to do. They beat the teams they're quote-unquote supposed to beat. Last night, they did it convincingly. I don't care that there was no Giannis Antetokounmpo. The Pistons fans aren't sitting, well, maybe most of them aren't sitting there saying, we didn't have Cade Cunningham. We didn't have Isaiah Stewart. There's too much made of that last year in the playoff series against the Knicks. Next man up mentality is what you're supposed to have. And the Pistons have done that all season long. All season. This is another reason why people love Cade Cunningham. Because I sure do. I mean, when you answer like that, look, I learned a lot. Wow. Most people would be a little bit more bitter than I learned a lot. I was fun watching the team grow. Isn't there a part of you that wiggles a little bit more and goes, man, I mean, doesn't this team need me? Pistons were able to get by just fine. It doesn't mean you want him out of the lineup. It just means you have other guys who are actually stepping forward and elevating their game, learning more about themselves. And nobody's more supportive than their best player. It's fantastic. Here's my question. Should Cade Cunningham play in the final 3 games? No, 2 games rather. Would you play him in the next 2 games? They're obviously meaningless. They're both meaningless. Let me backtrack that. They don't have an influence on the Pistons' outcome. They're locked into the number 1 seed. Okay, so they can't go up. They're not going to go down in the seedings. So what do? Do you play him on the road against Charlotte and on the road against Indiana? Charlotte playing for a little jockeying of position. So what would you do?
I feel like it depends kind of what you took away from last night a little bit, because I think it'd be more about him as a player. Like, do you feel like you need to see more from him? Like, does he need to get back to, actual playing form? Or do you think he's going to be able to be fine if he does take a couple games off going into the playoffs after having as much time as he had off because of the injury?
Right. So that would mean you miss 13 of your last 14 games if you don't play him. I consult with the player. Doctors, trainers, they're, of course, going to be involved. But I bring in Cade Cunningham and I ask him, how much do you want to play? Understanding he's, in all likelihood, he's going to say, look, I want to play 40 minutes. Let's be careful there, okay? I'd play him between 20 and 25 minutes in both games. That's what I would do.
Yeah, I don't.
Just to get the heart rate up a little bit. They always say, everybody says this, game shape. Game is not like a practice. It's hard to, incorporate a game into a practice. So let's give him that opportunity. And if he's feeling it and he wants to play a little bit more, fine. But there has to be a cap. 26 minutes, I was a little surprised with. But I just love his response. So I'm glad Andy played that. Love his response to what people said about what he kind of learned during this spell. So it's fantastic stuff. By the way, Frozen 4 is in Las Vegas and it begins today. half the field is made up of Big Ten teams. Michigan's going to play Denver at 8:30. Wisconsin will play North Dakota in the early matchup. I think it's 5:30. The four programs combined have the most national championships, 33. No one has more than Denver, 10. Michigan is second with 9. It's an awesome Final Four, and it's also, to a certain extent, a rematch. Denver beat Michigan for the national title in 2022, okay? This is the 29th Frozen Four for Michigan. Can they kick in the door? That's the question. I think the matchup against Denver is going to be tougher. Of course, we said this in the semifinals against Arizona. It's going to be tougher than the finals. I really believe the winner of Michigan-Denver wins it all. That's not a knock on the other two programs. I just think that's the way these two teams are. I love the historical significance associated with these two semifinals, just how good they both are. All right, the 90th playing of the Masters begins today. The conditions means Augusta will play fast and will play firm. Rory McIlroy is your defending champion. Two-time champ Scotty Scheffler is the favorite, followed by Jon Rahm and then Bryson DeChambeau, which takes us to our Mitch Lyons Wealth Poll question of the day. Which is the best major in golf? Is it the Masters? Is it the Open Championship? Is it the U.S. Open? Or is it the PGA? Vote as often as you want at XB Mornings. I'll retweet it at Shep Matt, and we'll give you the results tomorrow before we say goodbye on the weekend. What do you think? Cade Cunningham was asked about this last night, and Andy's got this ready for us regarding the 65-game minimum. Cade Cunningham could actually still qualify for the postseason awards based on extraordinary circumstances. It's a challenge. Despite failing a game short of the 65-game minimum, because Cade Cunningham, as much as we love him, and we do, but there are rules, and we talked about it the other day. We talked about the fact that he's the NBA, they want you to play 79% of the games. What's wrong with that? Show up for work 79% of the time. He has played 61 games. So if he plays the final two, there's 63. He would be short of the minimum, which is 65. Others are having the same problem. There are other players who are supposed to be in the mix for certain awards that might have a similar issue that Cade Cunningham has. How do you feel about, and then we'll get his thoughts on it, how do you feel about Cade Cunningham trying to find that because of its extraordinary situation? And I said 61. He's played 62 after playing last night. So Basketball Reference, 62 games on the year. That he needs to get to 65. So actually, yeah, I mean, 2 more gets him to 64. Another reason maybe you might play him, although I don't think Cade Cunningham is selfish like that. An independent arbitrator would review the case to determine his eligibility. I don't know quite honestly, I don't know what the extraordinary circumstances are. I mean, extraordinary circumstances are a collapsed lung. How's that different than a lot of other injuries? Anyway, here's Cade Cunningham on that rule of needing 65 games played in order for you to qualify for postseason awards. Listen to this. Do we have that?
The fans come to watch me play, and I want to make sure that I'm available and I give them a show whenever they come out. So in that way, I respect the rule. I think it's a good rule in that way. It's tough for me right now this year because I think I did a lot of work to, be in consideration for awards and all NBA and all that stuff. So I'm in a tough spot, but I think it'll all play out how it's supposed to play out.
Hear that? That's the sound of saving a good deal more when you shop with.
I love that soundbite from Cade Cunningham. He respects the rule. So in other words, he understands it. He takes it serious that people pay money to go watch him play. In a day and age of basketball, right now at the NBA level, we are constantly complaining about load management. The NBA has a problem with tanking. The NBA has had problems with gambling. We've got a superstar in this league that says, I take it seriously that people want to come watch me play. How refreshing is that? How outstanding is that? You want leadership. There's a lot of different ways you can show leadership. Saw a really good clip the other day of Sidney Crosby and his leadership and how he's saying to the coaches, hey, you got to need more positive reinforcement than this. And we get all that. But Cade Cunningham shows a little bit of leadership in this regard, too. We'll get more into it on the other side. This is X's and Bros on a Tullymore Thursday, and we're brought to you by Mitch Lanswell.
The fight against Parkinson's.
Mitch, since my diagnosis, I get up every day and focus on winning that day. This center encourages others to do the same.
Awesome, Gibby. To learn more, go to kirkgibsoncenter.org.
Huge here with a message for all the golfers all across Michigan. Have you played at Crystal Mountain? Now, the resort is located in Thompsonville, Michigan, 2.5 hours northwest of Grand Rapids. They feature Mountain Ridge and Betsy Valley, two renowned 18-hole championship layouts, incredible accommodations, food, beverages, and more. It's time for you to book a stay-and-play package at Crystal Mountain today. Go to crystalmountain.com. That's crystalmountain.com. Huge here for the Michigan High School Athletic Association. You can stay up to date on the latest from Lansing 24/7 at MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. The latest news, press releases, and stories connected to every high school in the state of Michigan, available for you 24/7 from the Michigan High School Athletic Association. Log on to MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. And if you're looking for archive boys and girls high school sports,
The fans come to watch me play, and I want to make sure that I'm available and I give them a show whenever they. The fans come to watch me play, and I want to make sure that I'm available and I give them a show whenever they come out. So in that way, I respect the rule. I think it's a good rule in that way. It's tough for me right now this year because I think I did a lot of work to be in consideration for awards and all NBA and all that stuff. So I'm in a tough spot, but I think it'll all play out how it's supposed to play out.
Yeah, I wanted to play that again for you to hear the understanding in Cade Cunningham's voice. I love how he handles situations. Look, this is nothing against any player who feels like they have to go out there and state their case. My hope is that others are stating their case for them, but sometimes you have to stand up for yourself. And I think he's done a really good job and balanced that well. The way he's handled this situation is more than admirable. I don't know the number that's enough. We can get emotionally attached to a player like we are with Cade Cunningham, respect him, love what he's done, understand what he's meant to this team and quite honestly the league this year, and want him to be all NBA because he deserves it. Also deserves to be in the MVP conversation. But there are rules, right? There are rules that say you got to play 65 games. It would have been nice to have gotten him to 65. They're not going to be able to do that. I don't know how his camp and the Pistons are going to handle it. We know the guy like Luka Doncic is trying to find a pathway to do that because he and his agent, as soon as the regular season is over, they are going to file and announce that he is trying to take advantage is probably wrong. They're going to appeal on the 65-game participation policy with extraordinary circumstances challenge. What are the circumstances? Why did he not get to 65 games? He got to 64. He would have gotten to 65 had he not got a 16th technical. Well, stop whining like a little baby every time you think you've been fouled, even though you take more free throw attempts than anybody else in the National Basketball Association. So that's easy for me to say because I'm not a huge fan. He missed a couple of games for the birth of his child. Hey, I understand that. Are those, we have to define what extraordinary circumstances truly are because, obviously he missed the rest of the regular season, with a legitimate injury. What is it that we consider extraordinary circumstances for the threshold? Okay. This policy allows players to appeal if they meet certain factors, okay, where it was, quote unquote, impractical for him to play in one or more of the regular season games that he missed during such a season. Impracticable. Well, what does that mean? Because he gets an extra technical. So you got one rule saying you got to play 65 games. You got another rule. If you get a certain amount of technicals, you're going to miss a game. Which one is unfair? Which one do you adhere to? One can affect the other. That's what rules do. His agent said, Luka has gone to great lengths to show up for his team in this league this season. His record-breaking season deserves to be noted in the history books. It's not Luka Doncic saying this. It's his agent. We haven't seen Cade Cunningham say that through his representatives, at least not yet anyway. I assume he will be doing something similar to what Doncic does, as in appealing it. I hope he appeals it. I'd like it to be heard by an independent arbiter. He did. So he missed the 2 games. He returned to Slovenia, birth of his second daughter, rejoined the team. Okay. Had he played in those games, he would have played in 86% of the games. So he would have easily reached that. Okay. Like I said, you can file for an exemption starting on the final day of the regular season and then have until the next day to formally submit it. Okay. It's not that he doesn't deserve to be considered for a great season, because he's had a great season, as has Cade Cunningham. But we always have to ask ourselves the next question, because immediately the emotional side of things takes over and says, well, it's just 65 games. It's ridiculous. Then how much should it be? Is 64 enough? What about 63? If somebody made it 63, sometime down the road in one of the seasons moving forward will have played 62 games and said, I'm only one game shy. Why does it have to be 63? There has to be a reason for this. Okay? The NBA has to understand people are frustrated with this rule at times. This has been in effect for a while. Why is this year it getting so much run? It's getting so much run because the best players who are having the best seasons, guys like Doncic, even though I wouldn't think he's an MVP candidate, and Cade Cunningham are teetering on not being considered. Victor Wembanyama had to play X amount of games. Luka Doncic, they started carving his path early on in the season and wondering if he was going to be able to be associated with it. Or a guy like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who most people following the NBA would say those are the names. All those names are the ones associated with the MVP. Via text. And you can text us, Sports Radio 21,000. Shep, the Pistons now have a great chance to not waste a great season like the Lions did at 15-2 and the San Francisco game. Also, the Tigers 2 years ago coming back in August when they had zero chance, but then made the playoffs and lost. You can't waste great seasons. They don't come along very often. Well, yes. But when you say waste, what are you suggesting? Are you suggesting if the Pistons don't make the NBA Finals, that they wasted the season? Because Boston's pretty good. A lot of people believe in New York. Donovan Mitchell's had an unbelievable season. The number of points he scored is, I think, 8th most in a single season in Cleveland history. That's a team that could cause some problems for others. Hell, a first-round opening matchup against Charlotte might scare you just a little bit. Not that you'd lose the series, but might test you a little bit. You don't waste the season, but what if this team isn't, just the way it's built, isn't capable of winning the Eastern Conference? I think they are, but I'm just wondering if they can't, because you can't go back. You can't turn the clock back and say, we were missing this one specific piece. I get the 15-2 reference to the Lions. And quite honestly, the game against San Francisco, when they lose in the NFC Championship game and they just fell apart in the second half. I don't know if that would be considered a great season with 12 wins, but you make to the NFC Championship game, you're knocking on the door. You really thought, I mean, I literally looked around at people and said, we're going to the Super Bowl for how good they looked in the first half. I truly believed that, I think like a lot of you, that this team was good enough to win it all. I don't disagree that you can't waste great seasons, but there are plenty of great seasons that have been wasted. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, this wouldn't be like
how much can you? I mean, how much can you really do? I bring up the 96 Wings all the time. That was the epitome of a great season, was it not?
Yeah, no, I think the Tigers in 2012, that would be a good example of making it that far and not finishing the job once again. And I don't know. I think for the Pistons right now, if I think people are just thinking about that just because of the fact that this conference was so open, it kind of felt like all year for them to have an opportunity like this. And I mean, they haven't won a home playoff game in how long? So I think the fact that you have home court advantage throughout these playoffs at that point is another reason that people might think that, you know, it's such a big deal to have this right now and make it as far as they should probably make it.
Yeah, it's a good point. The Tigers, I remember in 1987 when they had that electrifying last series against the Toronto Blue Jays, and Frank Tanana pitched a 1-0 win, and Detroit won the East, and they had 98 wins, and they matched up against the Minnesota Twins, who had fewer wins but had home field advantage. Is that blowing a great season? Did the Tigers blow great seasons when they're playing for a World Series? I mean, would you say in 2006 it was a great season? They finished. There was a wild card, for crying out loud, even though they had 95 wins.
Yeah, I think everybody just thinks about the moment that sent them to the World Series when it comes to that,
Sure.
and the fact that they made the turnaround that they made. But yeah, I mean, in the end, it kind of goes back to what we talked about the other day with some of these Michigan teams. And if you don't win the championship, how can you be considered the best? I feel like that's kind of what it comes down to for some people, because if you don't finish the deal, that's what people seem to turn to a lot. But
yeah, I like you mentioned 2012 against San Francisco. They won 88 games that year. Was that a great season? Getting to the World Series, you would consider a great season, but they were swept by the Giants. Did they miss out on opportunity? The next year, they won more games than that. They won 93 and lost in the ALCS. So I'm trying to – I always like some type of definition that's associated with that. We think, what was a better season? The Lions' 12-win season that ended up losing in the NFC Championship game, or going 15-2, having home field throughout, but losing to Washington in the divisional round?
I mean, the better season was probably the 15-2. I think people just think about the NFC Championship season because they were that close to the Super Bowl, more or less.
Right, but the playoffs, correct me if you think I'm wrong here, the playoffs are part of a season.
Yes.
So you would think the year before, when they won 12 games and reached the NFC Championship game, that indeed that was the best season.
I easily remember that one. I think every Lions fan remembers that one more just because of how close you were to getting there.
Look at, I think Freddie's point is a good one in this sense. You look at the Seattle Mariners in, 2001? They won 116 games. 116 games.
It's incredible, man.
But they lost to the Yankees in the ALCS in 5 games. That's blowing a great season. Last year, if you just want to stay with baseball for a moment, because we just brought up the Mariners, who had a great season last year? Blue Jays won 94 games. It's a pretty damn good season, don't you think? Phillies had 96 wins. The Brewers had 97 wins. Did they blow great seasons? By his definition, absolutely. They did. It doesn't mean you can't have them again. Now, I'm using baseball as an example, and it might be a little unfair because baseball, you're keeping guys together longer. It's not that the Pistons have had a great season. There's no doubt about that. And I don't use that word very often. You guys know that. But it's also a team that is, I want to say it's almost like it's in its infancy. When you have young players who are still figuring it out, like Ron Holland and Asar Thompson, who's an unbelievable defensive player, when Jalen Duren is still growing a little bit. Cade Cunningham would tell you he's got room to improve, but hard to improve on those gaudy numbers that he's put together without becoming super selfish. There's room for them to grow without question. It's not that if they don't win an NBA title or make it to the NBA Finals that the season would be a failure. I mean, let me ask you this. Was Cleveland's 64-win season last year a failure because they didn't reach the NBA Finals?
I mean,
it's a great season.
Yeah, it still feels like a good season to me. I don't think you have to necessarily call it a failure. I mean, I also was just kind of looking up some stuff, and the Winnipeg Jets last year, I think, are
right.
a pretty good example because they had the best record in the NHL, and it didn't go very far. So, yeah,
it's a tough one. I don't failures. Freddie didn't use the word failure. People have used that word before. Some players bristle at it, and rightfully so. Giannis Antetokounmpo says that, and it's a famous back and forth with a reporter where he says, if you didn't make a sale today, is it a failure? He said, there's a difference between that and losing. You lose games in a season. There's only one team that gets the trophy, that gets the championship and considers it the best season and considered it a great season.
I mean, Dan Watson kind of said it on our show yesterday when you asked him about it with the Griffins going to the playoffs this year, having all the points and stuff they have. He said with how, long the season is, you wouldn't look at it as a failure, but it still is like at the end of the day, as players and coaches, you're judged on wins and losses and how far you go. So I'd imagine they might feel that way about it too, that it could be a failure if they don't get to the end.
Yeah, no doubt. The 2006 Tigers is an interesting one. 95 wins, get to the World Series. I think a lot of it depends on how you think it's going to end up, and it doesn't always end up that way because you lose to a Cardinals team that just we didn't think was very good. If you had to rank World Series champions over the years, that St. Louis Cardinals team from 2006 would not rank very highly. Now, I have said in the past, and rightfully so, age doesn't always matter. What I've said specifically is it's not your age, it's how many at-bats you have, how many games you've played. That's what I've said about, the whole youth aspect of it. Talent matters, no question. Have the Pistons proven to you this year that they're the most talented team in the Eastern Conference? If they haven't, what does it take to prove it to you? Because most people are siding with the Celtics right now. If you look at the national media anyway, the national media is saying it's Boston who is the scariest team in the NBA's Eastern Conference. And that's I'm not taking anything away from Boston because they're 54-25. That's pretty damn good. They're not going to have the number one seed, but last year they won 61 games. This year they've followed it up with 54 so far. And remember, they played a long time without Jason Tatum.
And it hasn't been that long since they won an NBA title. So
correct. And they have guys who have been there, done that with Tatum and Brown and others, whereas Detroit doesn't have that type of experience. But the Pistons have proven it over an extended period of time. Can they do it in an extended series? That's what a lot of people want to know. I just don't look at it as a blown opportunity or a blown great season if you don't win the NBA championship. I expect them to get there. I think that's a fair expectation. I think San Antonio's a better team. I think Oklahoma City's a better team. I think Denver would cause anybody in the East problems in the NBA Finals as well. Our phone number on the Meijer hotline is 866-838-4843. You can text us, Sports Radio 21000, or join us in the chat, wherever it may be that you're watching via stream, X, Facebook, and on YouTube. This is a Tullymore Thursday, and we're brought to you by Mitch Lyons Wealth.
You've worked hard for decades saving in pre-tax retirement plans like 401ks and IRAs, saving on taxes now. But as your retirement now approaches, you're going to get taxed at rates you have no control over. Hi, I'm Mitch Lyons, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth. Your 401k balance isn't worth what your statement says. You could lose thousands of dollars to taxes, and those distributions can impact other areas of your retirement like Social Security and Medicare. Could a Roth IRA conversion be of help to you? You've probably heard of Roth conversions, but it can be confusing. Should you convert all at once or over time? Where should you pay the taxes from? How do you know for sure? Get our free personalized Roth Blueprint analysis today to find out exactly what makes sense for you. Your Roth Blueprint could potentially increase your lifetime wealth by thousands of dollars. So get your free Roth Blueprint today. Text Blueprint to 844-867-8335. That's Blueprint to 844-867-8335. Or go to MitchLyonsWealth.com, your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement.
Farrah's Coffee has been family-owned and operated for over 100 years. Its popular Den Blend and Dark Roast is more than coffee and more than the official coffee of the Detroit Lions. It's a call to rise. Farrah's Coffee and the Lions are the perfect match. They embrace those who show up early, cheer loud, and never back down. Den Blend is perfectly roasted in Grand Rapids and provides the ultimate fuel for fans who wake up and roar. Whether you're tailgating at the game or cheering from your couch, Den Blend is your go-to coffee for your game day ritual.
Huge here for Van Andel Institute Purple Community. Now, they're a grassroots fundraising network powered by the volunteers who support VAI's mission to improve health now and in the future. Learn more at purplecommunity.org.
Mitch Lyons here, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth, where we create your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement. I'm here with Tiger legend Kirk Gibson, who we are proud to support and partner with on the newly opened Kirk Gibson Center for Parkinson's Wellness.
Thanks, Mitch. We appreciate your support, and we are excited to have recently opened the center in Farmington Hills. It provides exercise therapy and educational programs that are helping the Parkinson's community, just like Mitch Lyons Wealth helps improve the quality for their clients' retirements. This center helps improve the quality of life for people with Parkinson's.
And Gibby, the best part of all is that access to the center is available to the Parkinson's community free of charge, right?
That's right, absolutely free of charge for people with Parkinson's and their care partners.
You hit a couple of the most famous home runs in Major League history, Gibby, but I feel that your greatest hit will be the positive impact that Kirk Gibson Center is making in the fight against Parkinson's.
Mitch, since my diagnosis, I get up every day and focus on winning that day. This center encourages others to do the same.
Awesome, Gibby. To learn more, go to kirkgibsoncenter.org.
Huge here for all the ABC warehouse stores in Michigan. Your home for the biggest TVs and the biggest deals on TVs. Think about watching the Masters this weekend and you have a big screen, the biggest one you've ever had. You can get a huge deal right now at your local ABC warehouse store. They also are dropping huge savings on appliances, furniture, mattresses, and more at your local ABC warehouse store all across Michigan.
The Freddie the Pizza Man Foundation is dedicated to providing support to families and Michigan schools touched by autism. We invite you to join us in supporting these families and schools by making a donation at freddythepizzaman.com. With your donation, you can help provide essential resources that can make a real impact. Visit freddythepizzaman.com to make a donation and to learn more about the foundation's mission. That's FREDI thepizzaman.com. Together, we can make a difference.
Masters starts today in a little bit. Welcome to the second hour of X's and Bros. We're brought to you this hour by our friends at Meyer. Did you watch any of the par 3 yesterday?
I didn't really get the chance to, no, but I saw some of the stuff on social media.
What did you see on social media? You saw a lot of negativity associated with it? Is that what you're referring to? Andy, you there?
Sorry, what was that?
I said, what did you see on social media?
Oh, just the a lot of stuff from the little guys, it looks like, for me.
What do you mean the little guys? The guys
the kids? I saw.
The
yeah,
kids.
yeah,
I got you. Yeah. So Jason Kelsey was part of ESPN's coverage. And so was Kevin Hart, because they were on the bag. Like Kevin Hart was on the bag for Bryson DeChambeau, which kind of brings some personality and makes it funny a little bit. Jason Kelsey was alongside Akshay Bhatia. The pushback from what I saw on social media was pretty intense. First of all, I think I'm getting the sense more and more sports fans, and maybe it's just the people who pop up on, my flow of social media. So it might not be really deep, but I think a lot of people are tired of ESPN trying to create personalities instead of letting things happen generically. But I've said this for a long time in sports, you can be overexposed. The overexposure of Jason Kelsey, I don't know if it's necessarily his fault. He can always say no, but may not want to. The association with football is one thing. Him being on the pregame show, I think he does a really good job. They kind of clown him up every once in a while. Hey, there's the Baltimore Ravens band. Why don't you put on a uniform and play the trombone? You know what I mean? Having him at the Masters, doing those things takes away, for some people feel, takes away from the par 3 event. The par 3 event that is supposed to be for fathers and sons, fathers and daughters, fathers and spouses. And it's a constant push on the part of a network to get their personalities involved. Do you want more access? Having them mic'd up, very cool, right? It doesn't mean that's what ESPN is going to do for any coverage of the Masters. But that is a borderline sacred thing. I remember when Gary McCord said, these greens are like bikini wax. That's how he described the greens of the Masters. The Masters were so upset, they got him banned from the broadcast. It was the last broadcast he did at Augusta ever. And yet you're going to have guys out there hacking it up. Kevin Hart can't play golf. And that was a sideshow. Jason Kelsey and some of his actions seemed like a sideshow. They're taking away from the meaning of what the par 3 contest is all about, or what the coverage of golf is all about. To a certain extent, Augusta has conformed to no longer being that quote unquote special event, and it's now become a little bit of a sideshow. And I think people are tired of that. That's why, from what I read, a lot of ESPN's coverage is down in certain things. Look, their productions of broadcasts staying the same or improving, right? When you see them carrying a game, doing the pregame, all that stuff seems to be well done. I think the pregames sometimes get a little long. That's how a lot of networks make their money, because you're spending a lot of money for play-by-play rights. How do you add to that? How do you recoup that? I don't care if it's radio or TV. I don't care if it's college or if it's professional. How do you do that? Pre- and post-game shows. You sell those. The longer it is, the more chance for spots. That's how you make your money back. Having Brian Windhorst and their basketball coverage act like he's part of a basketball set seems very odd to me. And when I say set, I mean where they have all the players stand up and they walk through some type of play. Here's the zipper play we're going to run today. Brian, you're going to come up as the 2 guard and move up to the low block and set a screen. And then he waddles himself up to the low block and does his best imitation of an NBA player, looking very uncomfortable at the time. So perhaps they get a little too much into that stuff. And a lot of it has to do with, certain personalities, and I get it. But ESPN has taken, I think, a severe social media hit from people because of them trying to drum up let's try to get people to watch for your antics on screen. It gets a little old. They miss the days of, here's the highlights. I'm going to give you some information. I'm going to give you some sound bites. Just show me what Connor McDavid did last night and I'm fine. You don't have to put any cute music underneath it. You don't have to try and compare it to anything. You could just show me having a 5-point night, including a hat trick, that also included one of the badass goals you'll see all season long, where he goes around 2 San Jose defensemen. Show me Macklin Celebrini and how good he was again last night. I'm fine. You don't have to start acting like this is the greatest thing you've ever seen. You don't have to start using some type of words to a rap song to associate with it. I'm good. Just show it to me. A lot of people are tired of that, I think. And I think there's a lot of people who are tired of ESPN trying to set what they feel is a different standard when it comes to an event like this. The Masters, there are certain events that some may say are sacred. That may sound Pollyannish. That may sound like an old guy, get off my lawn, all those other things. Go right ahead. But I think there's a lot of people, even young people, who have a tendency to side with that. It doesn't mean that the Waste Management Open is like that. It's just the Masters. There's something special about it. Don't feed me all these eloquent promos beginning in January that the Masters comes your way in April. And it's a nice, soft-toned Scott Van Pelt, who's excellent at golf, I might add. It's a soft-toned Scott Van Pelt reading it and showing all these beautiful pictures, and then muck it up with a bunch of personalities that you're forcing down our throat, which is really too bad because I like Jason Kelsey, quite honestly. But you got to admit, it gets a little old. Via text. Let's see here. Shep, yes, for me, the Pistons are not proven. They are the most talented. They definitely care the most, hustle the most. Does that win the playoffs? I don't think so. Talent does, but I hope they do. I don't amen to that. I hope people are recognizing that. In a day and age, and winning cures everything, but in a day and age, especially right now for you and I, watching the Red Wings pisses us off because we feel like they've blown an opportunity when they had the league lead, the Eastern Conference lead on January 25th, and have just blown it, sucked the entire life out of us, and frustrated because the gas level, the give-a-blank level is very low. From our standpoint, it seems very low, while the Pistons give-a-blank level exceeds everything we thought. On a night-to-night basis, there might be 2 games that we can recall this year where you're like, boy, this isn't the Piston team I'm used to watching. But it's an 82-game slate. You can understand it. Shep, it's probably because pay so much more of their talent, so much money, that they run out of money to get the real talent in the right sports. Laugh out loud. Look at the courses we played today. Divot marks, not fixed. Slow play. Bunch of hacks who shouldn't be playing. Those are public golf courses, though. You've got to expect that. I've always felt if you're going to have somebody who's a beginning golfer, take them to a par 3 course first. That's what I do with my daughter. That way it's quick. You're not taking a lot of time. You and I have plenty of stories about the frustrations of playing golf on a week-to-week basis. We're brought to you this hour by our friends at Meijer. This is X's and Bros on the Michigan Sports Network.
Hear that? That's the sound of saving a good deal more when you shop with M-Perks at Meijer. Some delicious Cosmic Crisp apples, money saved. Meijer Essential Paper Towels, that's money saved. Savings, savings, savings. Because every dollar spent is also points earned in MPerks, which you can use to save on your next grocery trip or up to $1 off per gallon on your next tank of gas. At Meijer, we work hard to help you save a good deal more for a whole lot less. That's bringing more good to life. Exclusions apply. See mperks.com for details.
Farrah's Coffee has been family owned and operated for over 100 years. Its popular Den Blend and Dark Roast is more than coffee and more than the official coffee of the Detroit Lions. It's a call to rise. Farrah's Coffee and the Lions are the perfect match. They embrace those who show up early, cheer loud, and never back down. Den Blend is perfectly roasted in Grand Rapids and provides the ultimate fuel for fans who wake up and roar. Whether you're tailgating at the game or cheering from your couch, Den Blend is your go-to coffee for your game day ritual.
Van Andel Institute Purple Community is a grassroots fundraising network powered by the dedicated volunteers who support VAI's mission to improve human health now and in the future. When you raise funds through the Van Andel Institute Purple Community, 100% of the proceeds go directly to the Institute's research into diseases like cancer and Parkinson's, as well as VAI's science education programs. Learn how you can get involved at purplecommunity.org.
The Freddie the Pizza Man Foundation is dedicated to providing support to families and Michigan schools touched by autism. We invite you to join us in supporting these families and schools by making a donation at freddythepizzaman.com. With your donation, you can help provide essential resources that can make a real impact. Visit freddythepizzaman.com to make a donation and to learn more about the foundation's mission. That's FREDI thepizzaman.com. Together, we can make a difference.
Growing up as an American golfer, I think Augusta is kind of like the place that you always want to get to, whether or not it's to play in the tournament, just to be able to see the golf course. And for me, I truly feel like when you drive down Magnolia Lane, everything else kind of melts away and you just get to be out here and be present, be focused. There's not as many distractions this week. This is one of the best run tournaments that we have. I think, this tournament and our tournament, the Players Championship, are some of the two of the best run tournaments that we have.
And Scotty Scheffler, who's the favorite to win at Augusta this weekend, and golf starts this morning. Excited to watch it, excited to follow it, excited to talk about it with you. If you have a thought on the Meyer hotline, 866-838-4843, text line Sports Radio 21,000. This is an interesting text because as we were going to break, we were talking about the coverage of the par 3 tournament. And sometimes got to be a little careful because I think people view me as a little bit of a traditionalist. I think that's fair. That my shows are too sports oriented. People want to be entertained. People want to smile, things of that nature. And I don't necessarily blame them. Okay. We have to be able to self-evaluate. I've always felt like I've got to do a better job than just, and Andy helps me with this now, of, being a little bit lighter, a little bit looser, instead of everything being so serious when it comes to sports. ESPN probably felt the same way. Somebody texted us and says, we got to blame the Masters too. They pride themselves with no phones. No one can play it unless you're on a list, but then sell the rest to ESPN. They knew that they were getting it. The problem is suits think fans want entertainment. Fans just want the games and the great players and the errors of the game, and that's it. That's not it, unfortunately. I understand how you feel and how I may feel. I want the game. I don't need to be entertained. You know who entertains me? The players. But I'm in the minority, and so are you. I hate to say it, but it's true. Let's just take recent. I like Ian Eagle calling the game. I think he does a really good job. I was entertained by Michigan and UConn, not by Ian Eagle and Grant Hill and Bill Raftery. They help stabilize things for me. But there's a lot of people who want to be entertained with taking Twitter questions during a broadcast. They want to hear the cute lines left and right. They want to see what people in the booth are eating. I don't know, They want the cultural association with certain calls and certain players. They want all that stuff. And that's the way it goes. It's true. I mean, I don't like it necessarily. I was calling Lions preseason for a long, long time. Okay. 10 years, I think. And I remember somebody saying to me, Shep, all we want to do is entertain people. And I looked at him, I said, that's not my job. My job is to inform people about the players who might be on this team. My job is to tell people about why they deserve or why they have a shot at making this team. Shut up and get out of the way and let Chris Spielman or Herman Moore or Nate Burleson or Desmond Howard or Rob Rubik, whomever I was working with at the time, calling Lions football, to tell people about football. I think people were tuning in to watch it for that reason. Can you have a balance and a little bit of fun? Yes, I think you should. You should have some fun. I remember I was in Seattle calling the Tigers, and we had chocolate-covered crickets brought up to the booth. Where are we going to eat those? Okay? Doesn't mean it has to dominate for 2 to 3 innings. It could be a moment. If ESPN was at the Masters and did something with Jason Kelce for a moment, it wouldn't be bad. With Kevin Hart, for a moment, it wouldn't be bad. Do you have to dwell on it? No. It's why so many people struggle watching certain sports highlight shows these days, is because it's less about the highlights and more about the person bringing you the highlights. Shut up and get out of the way. That's what I want. Does everybody? There might be a few people who agree with me.
I do.
What do you look for, Andy?
I grew up on SportsCenter with a rundown that, gave you game after game, and you were waiting for those highlights to come on every morning. At least that's how I grew up, like, watching sports. now you're exactly right. I mean, it's with ESPN, it's just every single morning there's a different show with a different person who's got to tell you exactly how they feel about it. And that's like what some people look forward to now, which is crazy to me too. So I'm in the same department as you.
Yeah,
but
everything's a reference to some pop culture. It's some song. It's some slang term, because they got to feel like everybody loves me now. Everybody can associate with me. I can relate to that guy or that girl.
yeah, it's what is
Let's
their personality think,
Yeah, let's get on a couch and let's just kick it with the kicks and all this other stuff. Let's wear tennis shoes with suits. Let's not wear ties. And again, that's fine. I mean, I'm not trying to be a fuddy-duddy here. I just, at some point, I've been proven wrong because that's the route that people go. I suppose there might be certain exceptions. Look, when you have a baseball game and a baseball broadcast for 162 games, it can't be serious all the time. I've always felt, play-by-play guys should, especially on TV primarily, do your job and then get out of the way because people want to hear from the analyst. That was my always belief. Let them hear from fill in the blank, whoever it is. If I'm calling Pistons, Greg Kelser. When I called Red Wings, Mickey Redmond. Called Tigers, Kirk Gibson, Craig Monroe. That's who people want to hear from. Let them go. That's not the case, apparently, in a lot of situations these days. I thought I read something really cool, or I heard something really cool yesterday from JB Bickerstaff. And this is what should give us a little bit more oomph when it comes to postseason play. He said specifically, here's the quote, "We feel like we play a playoff brand of basketball every night. It's not going to be something when we have to completely change and be something we're not, because all year we've played that type of identity." Amen. That is so well said. I mean, I love that quote because it's so true. The Pistons really are one of those teams that do something that I think a lot of us, sure, they're entertaining. Okay. Sure, they've got some personalities. But what they do is they play hard and they give you the effort. They make it worth your while to spend your money. Doesn't mean they're always going to win, but there's no licking of the stamp when it comes to Detroit Pistons basketball. And it's not just because they play really good defense. It's not because Asar Thompson's blocking another shot or Cade Cunningham, as your best player, is willing to block a shot. Other stars might want to take note of what Cade Cunningham brings to the defensive side of the floor. But it's because they get it. They now have a mindset. You've heard of muscle memory, right? Me too. Where you get used to doing something. Why do you think those golfers are so good? Why do you think Fred Couples' swing has never changed? It's muscle memory. It's the way he's always going to swing, right? The Pistons literally play like they have muscle memory. They can't not play that way. Is it going to be good enough to win a title? I don't know. There are some things that maybe we should take note of. 1989. Who won a national championship? Michigan. 1989. Who was the number one seed in the NBA's Eastern Conference? Pistons. 1989. Who won an NBA title? Pistons. 2026. Who won the college championship? Michigan. Who's the number one seed in the East? Pistons. Remember, we ignored that during the Olympic gold medal. We ignored that it was Johnny Gaudreau's son's birthday, his second birthday, on the gold medal. That it was the anniversary of Team USA beating Russia. I mean, it was staring us in the face. Embrace it, right? Maybe it's something similar to that. Here's what we do know. This team has played, for the most part, 82 games. Not yet, 80 games so far. 80 games like you have to play in the NBA playoffs. So when people say, well, the one-off against Indiana is one thing, but playing the Knicks in a 7-game best-of-7 series is totally different. It is totally different, unless you've been playing this way the entire year, which is what the Pistons have done all season long. Problems with the Tigers? What's your anxiety level? We'll get to that on the other side. We're brought to you by Meyer here in the second hour on X's and Bros on a Tullymore Thursday.
Huge here for the Michigan High School Athletic Association. You can stay up to date on the latest from Lansing 24/7 at MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. The latest news, press releases, and stories connected to every high school in the state of Michigan, available for you 24/7 from the Michigan High School Athletic Association. Log on to MHSAA.com, at MHSAA on Twitter, and MHSAA on Facebook. And if you're looking for archive, boys and girls, high school sports, MHSAA.TV. That's MHSAA.TV. 24/7, everything you need to know about high school sports in Michigan. Log on to MHSAA.com. Huge here for all the ABC Warehouse stores in Michigan. Your home for the biggest TVs and the biggest deals on TVs. Think about watching the Masters this weekend and you have a big screen, the biggest one you've ever had. You can get a huge deal right now at your local ABC Warehouse store. They also are dropping huge savings on appliances, furniture, mattresses, and more at your local ABC Warehouse store all across Michigan.
Ferris Coffee has been family owned and operated for over 100 years. Its popular Den Blend and Dark Roast is more than coffee and more than the official coffee of the Detroit Lions. It's a call to rise. Ferris Coffee and the Lions are the perfect match. They embrace those who show up early, cheer loud, and never back down. Den Blend is perfectly roasted in Grand Rapids and provides the ultimate fuel for fans who wake up and roar. Whether you're tailgating at the game or cheering from your couch, Den Blend is your go-to coffee for your game day ritual.
35 after the hour. Welcome back. X's and Bros, Monday through Friday, 6 until 9, across the great state of Michigan. Thanks for giving us a little bit of your Tullymore Thursday, brought to you by Meyer this hour. We are on in Cadillac on the Ticket 93.7 FM. In Grand Rapids, it serves Kalamazoo and Holland and that great west part of the state area on WMAX 96.1 FM, The Game. We're on Petoskey and Charlevoix, WMBN 104.7 FM, The Ticket, Northern Michigan. In Lansing, WVFN AM, The Game. And in Traverse City, WKD 93.7 FM, The Ticket. We also stream live on YouTube, on Twitter, and on Facebook as well. You can join the chat and let us know some thoughts on some of the things that we've talked about, or maybe something that we haven't talked about just yet. All you got to do is follow us at XB Mornings. I'm Matt Shepard. Andy McDonald is with us as well. So we invite any feedback whatsoever. By the way, we didn't really get into this yesterday because we had a lot of other things that we were talking about, Red Wings primarily. Have you seen the pictures of Mike Vrabel and Diana Rossini?
Sure have.
The football reporter for The Athletic. I mean, it's absolutely crazy that people would put themselves in that type of situation. I don't know who took the pictures, but there's a number of, I wouldn't call them revealing or quote unquote dangerous. I think they need explanation.
Yeah, I think for Mike Vrabel's situation, it might be a little dangerous for sure.
Well, her too. I mean, she's married with 2 kids.
Yeah, for sure.
And they're at a resort in Arizona because of the football meetings. He's there. She's covering it. Wink, wink. And they show her in a hot tub with Vrabel. They show her holding hands with Vrabel, almost like they're ready to dance. They're doing like a medium to low high five with one another and fingers interlocked. It's just strange. Like, not that it's the same for a guy, I suppose, but you see players, you see coaches, you see general managers, presidents of teams, and you give them, you may dap them up, you may shake their hand, give them a slight hug. They seem to be holding on to one another for a little bit, and it's borderline uncomfortable. Okay, if you were the spouse of that person, it would make you think twice a little bit. Maybe I should go with you next time to that resort. You know what I mean? The other thing is, if it doesn't present a great look for female reporters. It doesn't. Sorry. I'm not saying she doesn't deserve where she's at. She does, if she's a good reporter. I don't know how good she is. I don't know how important it is. I don't care if it's a male or a female reporter. I have not been in one of those situations where you believe guys should be football reporters because they played football. If she's really good at gathering information and able to express it to people with the written word, kudos to her. And on TV, kudos to her. There's plenty of sideline reporters who do a really good job. You know, they ask good questions and they come up with really good information and they're able to share it with the audience. I think that's fantastic. If they were an analyst for football, I would think differently. But passing along the information they gather, I think is great. She has come out and she's defended what's going on, as has he. I think she probably handled it a lot better than he did. She said, look, these were public interactions in front of many people. Well, I'm sorry, that's what the Athletics executive editor said. Diana is a premier journalist covering the NFL, and we're proud to have her at the Athletic. She said the photos do not represent the group of 6 people who are hanging out during the day. Like most journalists in the NFL, reporters interact with sources away from the stadiums and other venues. Sure, don't always do it in a swimsuit in a hot tub, and don't always do it by holding hands. Interacting and acting like that are 2 different things.
I mean, yeah, you got to think a little bit to yourself at that point. Like in today's social media, you're going to have to end up defending yourself if like when in that moment, you're gonna have to think to yourself, like, this is gonna show up somewhere, and I'm probably gonna have to talk about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, you got to think is what you got to do. Vrabel said these photos show a completely innocent interaction. Suggestion otherwise is laughable. It doesn't deserve any further response. Okay, that's your stance. That's fine, but people are going to assume. I suppose they may assume anyway. All right. So no matter what he or she says, people are going to make jokes about it a little bit, and people are going to take it to an extreme. Vrabel needs to understand this too. I hope. He's got an owner who not too long ago was caught in massage parlors, and that wasn't great, right? It's just he's also got replaced 2 coaches ago a guy who's dating a 23-year-old and allows her on the North Carolina sidelines. I'm not saying that should go through your mind while you're about to hold hands with Diana Rossini. I'm just saying those are some things that you probably should remind yourself of every once in a while. That's all. Anyway, back to the sports aspect of it. So the Tigers lose last night, and there's going to be a rude awakening for somebody, okay? Somebody in this lineup. I'm not sure who, but if the struggles continue for certain players, there are others knocking at the door. Parker Meadows is now a guy who is viewed, I think, by a lot of Tigers fans as that next victim. Who's the guy that you want to see replaced? A couple of years ago, it was Spencer Torkelson. This year, I think it's going to be Parker Meadows, because there's a lot of people. Let's face it, it comes down to one of those situations where he might have been, it was either him or it was Wenzel Perez, right? Coming out of spring training. I like Parker Meadows. I think he's done a pretty good job. He came in as a pinch hitter last night, went 1 for 3. He's been about 270. His defense separates him. His ability to steal bases, take the extra bag, separates him as well. I'm a fan. I think he deserves to be on this team. Jahmai Jones is a little different story. All right? And Jones is a guy who was a pinch hitter last night for Kerry Carpenter, who had a hit and an RBI, but is struggling. Kerry Carpenter's hitting barely above 200. Jahmai Jones is 0 for 10 on the season. And I see a lot of people saying, well, Wenzel Perez is knocking on the door. Only because he's a role player, because he doesn't have to play every day. The number 8 prospect in baseball and the second best prospect in the Tigers system, because it's still Kevin McGonigal, you got to play a certain amount of games in order for you to and get a certain amount of games, certain amount of at-bats before you are no longer considered a prospect. I forget exactly what those numbers are. So he's still the number 1 prospect for the Tigers. Max Clark, the number 2 prospect for the Tigers, number 8 prospect in all of baseball, continues to rake. Last night, a number 3 hit, 2 RBI performance. So in 10 games, small sample size, I understand that. In 10 games in AAA, he's hitting 421. He's got an OBP of 500, and he's got a slug of 605. He's 5 for 5 in stolen bases. He's walking more than he's striking out. When he was at West Michigan, you folks know this, listening to us on WMAX 96.1 FM The Game in Grand Rapids, you saw him bat 250 in his first 10 games, 6 singles and a double. Toledo, in the meantime, he's got 6 doubles and batting at a 382/420, now 421 clip. He has adjusted quicker to AAA than he did to high A. Now, a lot of that has to do with at-bats. A lot of that has to do with confidence. A lot of that has to do with coaching, how he's getting better coaching. The only reason I bring it up is because he's the guy who's all season long, until he does get called up, and he will be called up all season long, he's going to be knocking at that door. One of the many while so many people brought up during spring training the chains, the shades, everybody wears shades, by the way, and the errors in an inning in one preseason game and the struggles offensively, well, everyone brings that up. Here's what you also have to remember. That kid, I'll use a Pistons term here. That kid's a freaking dog in a good way. DAWG. That's the good way to spell it, right, Andy? Yeah, I think so.
I
He's
believe
not,
so, yeah.
Yeah, he's not a DOG. A DOG is the guy who just kind of he's a lackadaisical and doesn't always try. This kid is a constant dog, DAWG, working his ass off, doing everything he possibly can to get to the major leagues. And once he gets to the major leagues, he wants to set a higher bar. We may not always recognize those things because we're caught up in the ancillary things. Do you really care how many chains he wears? I don't if he's getting on base. Do you care that he has shades? Who gives a crap as long as he's making the play in the outfield? And he's going to make more plays, hasn't made any errors yet in AAA, has a double play, has done a really nice job of chasing down fly balls in the gap and so on and so forth. He's a really good player. And people were caught up in spring on so many other things that just don't really truly matter.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody can just like Kevin McGonigal's been great, but people need time too. It's not like you can just expect somebody at that age to just be that good. And I think you're gonna find that out more with Kevin McGonigal too. That he's probably gonna have some struggles up at the major league level.
For sure he is.
And that I think that's sometimes where people just got to be careful and they go a little bit too fast, that kind of stuff. And spring training is like the first time you really see a lot from Max Clark. So I understand like why. And it's one of those easy things to pick at because he has all the chains on and stuff like that. But yeah, from talking to him multiple times, he's got his head in the right place. I think sometimes his answers might be a little bit too long in a sense, but I think the way that he's wired is exactly what you want in a baseball player.
Absolutely. That's well said. No question about it. Now, am I going to go so far as to say, he's going to, the Tigers should sign him to an extension right away? No, I'm not going to go quite that far. Pittsburgh did that yesterday. We talked about it briefly on our show. We said, should the Tigers do this with Kevin McGonigal? Because the Tigers are one of those teams that have done it before. They've done it with Cole Keith, right? If that's the precedent, remember what the Lions said about their precedent with Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson? It's the reason they did it with Frank Ragnow. That's a bad precedent. If the Tigers are going to do it with Cole Keith, you would think they would begin that process with Kevin McGonigal, who's a higher prospect and a better hitter. Pittsburgh did it with Connor Griffin, the 19-year-old shortstop. 9 years, $140 million. It was really cool. Paul Skeens showed up at the press conference. Paul Skeens said he's going to be the face of the Pittsburgh Pirates for a long time, right? And we've seen that. I gave you some examples yesterday, right? Mariners have signed shortstop Cole Emerson, 8 years, $95 million extension. Brewers signed their shortstop, Cooper Pratt, 8 years, $51 million. And Pratt said, I can just play the game, how it's supposed to be played without thinking about anything anymore. Everything's taken care of for my family and for generations. It's happened. It's a trend. You know why it's a trend? Because it makes sense. I always use the example of Ronald Acuna Jr. with the Braves. The Rays did it with Evan Longoria. 6 days into his big league career, Evan Longoria, hell of a player, third baseman for the Tampa Bay Rays, signed a 6-year, $175 million contract. And people couldn't believe it. Hold on. I think it was $17.5 million. My apologies. I think it's $17.5 million extension. Anyway, the Tigers could do that with Kevin McGonigal, and they could do it with Max Clark if they wanted to. I read an article the other day, just yesterday, about players who, with less than 1 year in the major leagues and what they've done. Roman Anthony, 8 years, $130 million. Andy hadn't played a full year when he signed that. Sammy Basallo, and Kristen Campbell. They did the same thing. Basallo with the Orioles, and Campbell with Boston. So who would be up next? It would be McGonigal. If the benchmark's 140, McGonigal is going to get it. Cam Schlittler, the pitcher for the Yankees. J.J. Weatherholt, the shortstop second baseman for the Cardinals. And here's who else they put in there. They put in Chase DeLauder for Cleveland. He's their center fielder and a few others. And then they said prospects who've yet to make their debut who could be in line to sign long-term deals, but they just haven't made it to the major leagues yet. One of them, Max Clark for the Tigers. Another, by the way, Walker Jenkins, who the Twins drafted right out of high school. It's a trend for a reason. Trust me when I tell you this, it does make sense.
It does. And I mean, do you think that this organization would go that way? I think it seems like Scott Harris has liked a lot of the guys that he's drafted, and they've seemed to kind of stick with that. I feel like this is a thing I could see them doing, but do you feel like they should do it sooner than later?
I wouldn't do it with Max Clark. Kevin McGonigal, look, Kevin McGonigal, depending on who you're reading, is the number 1 or number 2 prospect in all of baseball. He's the number 1 hitting prospect in all of baseball. And there have been plenty of high-level prospects, Matt Bush, who haven't necessarily made it, at least right away. If you believe in the hat or the skill set of Kevin McGonigal, and I think most people do, then why wouldn't you do it? What's the negative? Remember, the Lions have done this. The Pistons are going to do this with Jalen Duren in the offseason. You save some money by doing it this way. You have control. I have control of Andy McDonald for 6 years in Major League Baseball. The Tigers have 6 years of Kevin McGonigal because he made his Major League debut, okay? Made it out of spring. If you waited 2 weeks and you get 175 days in the major leagues, you get him for an extra year. So all you had to do is wait like 20 days. That's why I was in favor of that. But if you get him for 175, you get an extra year. So Max Clark, if they waited 20 days, and it's been 10, I think, you can keep him an extra 7. You would have him under team control for an extra year for a 7th year. So if you do that, right now, if you signed him to a 9-year contract, it's a 3-year extension after the 6 years of control that you have. And Pittsburgh is getting Connor Griffin for $15.5 million for over those 3 years. But by the time that kid is at 6 years, they're going to have to redo it. There's no question. But by the time that kid's played 6 years, are you kidding me? You think he's going to be worth more than $15.5 million? Absolutely he is. So would you do that with Kevin McGonigal and roll that dice? I would. It's not my money, but I'd do it. Via text. Shep, who's the number 3 prospect for Detroit? I think it's Bryce Rayner. He's the 6'3", 195-pound shortstop. He's had some problems with shoulder injury, but overall. So it's McGonigal 1, Clark 2, Rayner 3, and then I believe it's Briseño 4. He's the catcher, first baseman. Phone number on the Meyer hotline is 866-838-4843. Text is Sports Radio 21,000. Speaking of baseball, we'll talk a little bit on the other side and the angst that some Tigers fans have. Is it warranted? This hour has been brought to you by Meyer on I Tell You More Thursday on the Michigan Sports Network.
You've worked hard for decades saving in pre-tax retirement plans like 401ks and IRAs, saving on taxes now. But as your retirement now approaches, you're going to get taxed at rates you have no control over. Hi, I'm Mitch Lyons, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth. Your 401k balance isn't worth what your statement says. You could lose thousands of dollars to taxes, and those distributions can impact other areas of your retirement like Social Security and Medicare. Could a Roth IRA conversion be of help to you? You've probably heard of Roth conversions, but it can be confusing. Should you convert all at once or over time? Where should you pay the taxes from? How do you know for sure? Get our free personalized Roth Blueprint analysis today to find out exactly what makes sense for you. Your Roth Blueprint could potentially increase your lifetime wealth by thousands of dollars. So get your free Roth Blueprint today. Text Blueprint to 844-867-8335. That's Blueprint to 844-867-8335. Or go to MitchLyonsWealth.com, your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement.
Hear that? That's the sound of saving a good deal more when you shop with M-Perks at Meijer. Some delicious Cosmic Crisp apples, money saved. Meijer Essential Paper Towels, that's money saved. Savings, savings, savings. Because every dollar spent is also points earned in M-Perks, which you can use to save on your next grocery trip or up to $1 off per gallon on your next tank of gas. At Meijer, we work hard to help you save a good deal more for a whole lot less. That's bringing more good to life. Exclusions apply. See mperks.com for details.
Mitch Lyons here, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth, where we create your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement. I'm here with Tiger legend Kirk Gibson, who we are proud to support and partner with on the newly opened Kirk Gibson Center for Parkinson's Wellness.
Thanks, Mitch. We appreciate your support, and we are excited to have recently opened the center in Farmington Hills. It provides exercise therapy and educational programs that are helping the Parkinson's community, just like Mitch Lyons Wealth helps improve the quality for their clients' retirements. This center helps improve the quality of life for people with Parkinson's.
And Gibby, the best part of all is that access to the center is available to the Parkinson's community free of charge, right?
That's right, absolutely free of charge for people with Parkinson's and their care partners.
You hit a couple of the most famous home runs in Major League history, Gibby, but I feel that your greatest hit will be the positive impact the Kirk Gibson Center is making in the fight against Parkinson's.
Mitch, since my diagnosis, I get up every day and focus on winning that day. This center encourages others to do the same.
Awesome, Gibby. To learn more, go to kirkgibsoncenter.org.
What's up, Michigan? You're listening to my good friend Shep. The Huge Show is coming up later today at 3, right here on the Michigan Sports Network.
Ferris Coffee has been family owned and operated for over 100 years. Its popular Den Blend and Dark Roast is more than coffee and more than the official coffee of the Detroit Lions. It's a call to rise. Ferris Coffee and the Lions are the perfect match. They embrace those who show up early, cheer loud, and never back down. Den Blend is perfectly roasted in Grand Rapids and provides the ultimate fuel for fans who wake up and roar. Whether you're tailgating at the game or cheering from your couch, Den Blend is your go-to coffee for your game day ritual.
All right, welcome back on the Tullymore Thursday. This hour of X's and Bros probably brought to you by Avello Airlines and AvelloAir.com. In case you missed it last night, Pistons a winner, easy over Milwaukee. Cade Cunningham returned for a double-double. Isaiah Stewart was back as well. Cunningham played 26 minutes, which surprised me. 13 points, 10 assists. Jalen Duren led everybody with 21. So the Pistons are 30-9 at home this year. Red Wings are at home tonight against Philly. Big game for them, obviously. 2 more home games left. Pistons have 2 more road games left on the regular season slate. Tigers lose. They were down 7-0, came back, got a little closer. Suddenly it was 8-6, and that's how it ended. Just couldn't finish the deal. Framber Valdez gave up a career-tying high 8 runs, 10 hits in 5 innings. Was not a good outing for him. Tarek Skubal, last outing, wasn't very good. Casey Mize, last outing, not very good. They're going to rely on Jack Flaherty tonight. It's a start. That's all. It's one start. If this were a trend, I would be concerned. I am not. This team has lost 4 in a row. It sucks. What's the trend you're most concerned with the Tigers? The Masters starting today, the 90th Masters. Scotty Scheffler is the favorite. Rory McIlroy is the defending champion. The Mitch Lyons Wealth poll question for today: what is the best major out there? Is it the Masters? Is it the PGA Championship, the Open Championship, or the U.S. Open? Vote as often as you want at XB Mornings. I've retweeted it at Shep Matt, and we will tabulate the results in the 8 o'clock hour tomorrow. There are certain people, once you, I say this ad nauseum, it's hard to change people's minds. Okay. It's hard to change people's minds about Spencer Torkelson. It's hard to change people's minds about Riley Green and the strikeouts. Every time he strikes out, oh my gosh. Javier Baez has not been able to change people's minds because all he does is swing at sliders. Okay. We have it in our mind about certain players or certain coaches. I get that. I am not necessarily too dissimilar from you. But our friend Freddie, who texts us quite a bit, is a great dude. But he's got it stuck that, he's just not a big Jalen Duren fan. I don't know what Jalen Duren has to do because he's elevated his game when Cade Cunningham was out. He is massively productive. He is one of the primary reasons why the Pistons are in their situation right now. And there are some people who truly believe that he is, I don't think he's an MVP, but he's an all-NBA performer. Not necessarily first team, hang on, but an all-NBA performer. Per 36 minutes, 25 and 13.5 suggest that his production is more than just a short-term spike. All right? That he's becoming an elite player. Is there room to grow? You're damn right there is. Don't need a guy who just jams. I'm not saying he is. But when we were talking about certain Pistons and certain young guys where you're going to sign 2 extra deals, Freddie sends me a text. Jalen Duren still might be a sign and trade deal with Grant Hill. I wouldn't rule that out depending on how the playoff series go. Trajan is watching. Sure, Trajan's watching everything. Here's what Trajan's also watching and has been watching that maybe you've missed. Jalen Duren, even when the Pistons were without Cade Cunningham, was their best player, period. Their most consistent player, period. There was a time, I forget exactly what his numbers were when all was said and done, but there was a time when Cade Cunningham was out where Jalen Duren was cranking it up to well over 20 points per game, 24.5 points, 10.5 rebounds, 3 assists per game, creating his own shot. That was the first part of when Cade Cunningham went down. I forget exactly what the numbers were in the total 11 games. But the first half dozen, that's what he was averaging. And they were winning ball games. That's what Trajan Langdon recognizes. You know what he feels like? He feels like he's got one of the best 1-2 punches in the Eastern Conference with Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren. And then you can filter in some other pieces. He feels very similar to perhaps what Boston feels with Tatum and Brown. And you've got Duren and Cunningham. It's a good piece. It's a really good piece. You may not agree that he's worth whatever the contract's going to be for when he gets to the offseason. You may not agree with that, and that's understandable. But that's the rate that things are going. So he's going to get what the market is ready to deliver. He's done a really good job, and you have to be able to see that. I can't implore you enough to open your mind a little bit when it comes to him. So the Tigers lose last night, and on social media, which whether you like it or not, I mean, it gives you a sense of how people are feeling. I was in a group text with somebody 2 days ago when the Tigers lost after the Skubal situation. And I was kind of laughing. I said, 2 walks, 2 doubles in an inning, but it's not Skubal's fault. People will blame the lack of offense or A.J. Hinch. And that's exactly what happened. People blamed the lack of offense. And there wasn't any offense. Absolutely. I mean, you can blame that offense. As long as you got partial blame for the guy who also gave up the 2 walks and the 2 doubles. It's not an indictment on him that suddenly he can't do what he's supposed to do. It's not an indictment that he isn't the best pitcher in the world, because he is. It's not an indictment that I don't want him on my team. I would want him on my team every single day of the week. If I could start him 5 games in a row, I'd start him 5 games in a row. That's how much I think of him. Doesn't mean that I would give him $400 million in the offseason as a free agent. It just means I respect his ability as a pitcher immensely. Didn't like what happened at the World Baseball Classic. Would have rather they taken somebody else if you're only going to give me 1 game against Great Britain. But I also have known him long enough to know he's a competitor, and I want him on the bump. You can also criticize the best in the business. You know that, right? It happens quite a bit. Jared Goff's one of the better quarterbacks in football. He gets criticized quite a bit. Aiden Hutchinson's one of the best defensive ends in football. He gets criticized quite a bit. So if Tarek Skubal's not doing his job, he deserves some criticism. If A.J. Hinch isn't doing his job, he deserves some criticism too, and he'll take it. And when your team has lost 4 in a row and you've made some questionable moves, people are going to call you out. Last night, another indication. Takes out Kerry Carpenter, who started the game against a righty. The Tigers have started every single game so far this season. This is kind of unique. But all 12 games and 13 this afternoon, all of them right-handed starting pitching. It's the most Detroit has done since 2019, I think, when they faced 18 righties right out of the gate. It's kind of a unique situation. But quite honestly, it plays into Detroit's hand because you keep Carpenter in that lineup. Green's going to be in the lineup anyway. You've got Cole Keith in the lineup. McGonigal's going to be in the lineup anyway. McKinstry was in the lineup yesterday, probably would be in again today. Parker Meadows will be in the lineup. He was in there yesterday, probably be in there today. So that's why Kerry Carpenter started. You get to the bullpen, suddenly you get lefties coming out of there, and A.J. Hinch has a tendency to pinch hit for guys, and he did last night. Carpenter had a hit and an RBI. Jahmai Jones comes in. What does he do? He strikes out. 0 for 9 on the year. Next time up, another at-bat. 0 for 10 on the year. Jones last year against left-handed pitching hit .290. This year, he's 0 for 10. How long is long enough? That's a good question. Jahmai Jones hasn't built up a reputation enough where you can continue to keep using him in this situation. And at some point, you're going to hear the louder screams, Kerry Carpenter should bat against lefties just like Riley Green does. No one's immune to criticism, especially in the game of baseball. We're back after this.
In the Den.
DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today and use code HUGE for a special offer when you sign up. That code is HUGE only at DraftKings Sportsbook.
This is Matt Shepard. It's well known the Tigers are left-handed heavy in their lineup. Riley Green,
Kerry Carpenter, Kevin McGonigal, Cole Keith, Parker Meadows all make up the majority of their regular players. Being that heavy-handed from the left side can have its advantages against right-handed pitching, including today's series wrap-up with Minnesota and their right-handed starter, Mick Abel. By facing Abel, the Tigers will have faced 13 straight righties to start the season, the most since 2019 when the team stared down 18 right-handed starters in a row. Fortunately, the Tigers' best hitters are southpaws, including Cole Keith, who entered Wednesday's game with an on-base streak of 7 in a row.
Hear that? That's the sound of saving a good deal more when you shop with M-Perks at Meijer. Some delicious Cosmic Crisp apples, money saved. Meijer Essential Paper Towels, that's money saved. Savings, savings, savings. Because every dollar spent is also points earned in M-Perks, which you can use to save on your next grocery trip or up to $1 off per gallon on your next tank of gas. At Meijer, we work hard to help you save a good deal more for a whole lot less. That's bringing more good to life. Exclusions apply. See mperks.com for details.
Make sure you listen weekly to our Moving Ferris Forward interviews with Ferris President Bill Pink and other leaders who are moving Ferris forward. Find out more about Big Rapids and Ferris and what they have to offer at ferris.edu. What's up, Michigan? You're listening to Shep. Don't forget the huge show later today at 3 on the Michigan Sports Network.
Where are you watching the Tigers this year? Superfly Hayes here for Detroit Sportsnet. Sign up like the Huge Show did with the Detroit Sportsnet Tigers Wings package. Subscription info at tigers.com and MLB.com.
So it's really cool to see the golf course move and adapt, and us have to attack the golf course in unique, different ways. I think over the past couple of years, it's really come down to the equipment that I have, as well as a lot more patience, a sense of gratitude just being here. I mean, no matter whether I'm contending or, trying to make the cut or whatever it is, like, it's just, it really is such an honor for me to get after this golf course and try to learn more.
That's Bryson DeChambeau, who some people are predicting could win his first ever green jacket. He's playing well. He's coming off back-to-back live wins in Singapore and South Africa. Came close a year ago, played in the final group with Rory McIlroy, who was the eventual champion. He might get it done this year. Okay. Sometimes it requires you to learn a little bit, that course. He's definitely one of the guys to watch. All right. Scotty Scheffler obviously is in that mix. Some people like Xander Schauffele. Some people like Ludwig Oberg, who for some reason or another seems to just fall apart in the final round of golf tournaments, let alone majors. Okay. He was the runner-up in 2024, finished 7th a year ago. Oberg did. Anyway, I don't know if you heard this either, but DeChambeau, I believe, made his own 5-iron. Is that the story, Andy? Have you heard that, Andy McDonald?
I have not heard that.
Yeah, I think he's playing with a club in his bag.
He's always been the technical guy, right? Like the guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
He made it with a 3D printer. ESPN had this story. Okay. He said that the plan as of right now, after a practice round, is to play with the one club he built himself. Some people are calling him the mad scientist. He said it was ready, and what he did is he used a 3D printer, and he built a 5-iron himself. He said, there's this nature that I have about myself where innovation is a habit of mine. And I really find and take pride in those abilities to learn, even through failure, even through bad decisions or a good decision, what I can gain from that. We'll see where it goes. We'll see where it takes me. All I can say now, if I don't put him in the bag, it's my fault. So he's got a 5-iron that he made from a 3D printer himself.
It's truly,
pretty interesting.
It's a pretty unique way of doing it. That's for sure. I
can't
imagine making my own club. I just try to hit the ones that, are for myself, I guess, that I buy from a place.
It's an outside the box way of thinking. Speaking of the Masters, people love their college basketball March Madness pools, right? People love their NFL pools. They love fantasy football, fantasy baseball, and the various things. What about golf pools? I know baseball teams, a lot of baseball teams have done this. They do a draft, and they'll take specific players. Do you do anything like that?
Yeah, me and my friends do a Masters pool I think it's been like 3 or 4 years in a row now, just because it's kind of like the one golf event that we seem to get together and watch for the most part. But yeah, you basically get to pick 5 different players, and the newcomers just kind of whoever, you take a wild card shot at that. But the other 4 are you got a past champ, you have a United States player, you have an international player, and then you get a wild card, which is just anybody in the field. So that's like the 5 you pick. And like
when does the draft take place?
You don't have to draft. You can actually just pick whoever like you want for it, and then based off like the points they get, it's just how you kind of win. So
people can double up. You're saying,
yes.
So if you pick DeChambeau, somebody else can pick DeChambeau.
Yeah, they can pick him too. It really comes down to like the differences you have in your lineup. I mean, it's not very likely that you're all going to pick the exact same. But I mean, obviously, people pick like Rory, Scotty, Bryson. I've got those 3 in there because you want to get points. But I just was kind of looking through at the break because when we said we were going to talk about this, I picked Sung J.M. for my international player because he finished -7 last year, and he's made 7 to 9 cuts. And I'm the only person that picked him out of the 15 people that I'm doing it with. So
is it a blind pick? or is it a draft and people see who you're choosing?
You just get to pick from, like, again, it's like the past champs and then United States, international. You get to pick anybody you want from those fields. And it just kind of compares with the points that they get per round.
No, I understand that, but is it a blind pick? I mean, are you seeing what everybody else?
Oh no, yeah, you can compare it in this one, which is kind of unique because, like, in a lot of NCAA tournament brackets, you can't like see what teams people picked until it gets to it. You can actually see what other people picked for this one.
All right, so let's go through this. So you're taking, what does it end up being? 4 golfers?
Yeah, you pick 5 in total. One of them is a newcomer.
Okay, so let's go through it. Who's your American golfer that you've chosen?
I picked Bryson DeChambeau this year.
Okay, I would take Scotty Scheffler. What's the next level?
You got past champs. So
all right, so past champion. Who would it be?
Rory McIlroy is who I picked.
I would take John Rahm.
Okay,
so past champion.
Like this.
What's the next category?
You got international.
Okay, international. I would take Rory.
Okay, for sure. I feel like the most popular pick I was seeing amongst my friends was Ludwig Oberg for the most part. A lot of people were taking him.
I just don't believe I haven't seen him get it done yet, and that's what bothers me a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
When he can finally get it done, and look, I'm not saying Vijay Singh's gotten it done. That doesn't mean that I would take him. I'm just waiting for him to break through. I'm waiting for Oberg to break through in those types of situations. All right.
Next up would be first timers. So like somebody who hasn't been in it yet. I don't know if you have that list in front of you.
Yeah, I don't have that.
It's a tough one. Again, it's kind of like a dart throw. Most people have been picking Ben Griffin because it feels like he's like
that's a good one.
Hottest name you could do right now. So that's what most people have picked. And then the last one is a wild card, which is just that's where the biggest difference is usually made too. I feel like it's international and wild card because you can pick the wild card is just anybody in the field you can take. So it's just basically your guess at who's going to do the best this year, which is obviously hard to do.
Yeah, that's really hard to do. That's a good question. Who would I pick? So a wild card could be, for example, Ludwig Oberg.
Yeah, you could definitely do him. You could do Scotty Scheffler in a wild card. It doesn't really matter. It's just anybody in the field.
Doesn't seem like a wild card though.
Yeah, I
would be a wild card.
I understand that because most time you would just pick him for United States if you want to for sure get those points. Like there's no doubt he's not going to make the cut. That's the other thing too. If these players don't make the cut, then you just stop getting points. You don't get to repick. So
yeah, so you want someone who you think is going to make the cut.
Yes, yeah, that's where it takes a little bit of strategy, I think, with paying attention to who's made the cuts in the past and who consistently gets there. And then
and who the course is made for.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
I mean, I shouldn't say made for, but let's face it, there's a lot of people who it fits their game, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So if that's the case, then who was your wild card?
In my wild card, I believe that's where I did put Scotty Scheffler because I didn't put him in my United States. So
yeah, it seems like almost a way to cheat, to find different ways to get to get all the big names.
I totally understand it. I mean, like for me, it was if I get 3 of the guys that are like probably going to be in it, or even like close to the end. The other 2, I'm just gonna hope run away with it. Like Sungjae M is like the player that'll make a big difference for me because nobody else in the pool really picked them. So
yeah, I thought about Minwoo Lee, but I'll here's my wild card. My wild card is Justin Rose. He's been a 3-time runner-up. No one in Masters history has led more rounds without a win than Justin Rose.
Sure, yeah, and he had some. Wasn't it last year? He had a lot of success, right?
I think he did.
Yeah.
I think he was he's been in a playoff.
Yeah, he
wasn't
he the one that was going at it with Rory at the end? I'm pretty sure.
Yes, he was. Yeah. So I'm trying to think of the first timer though. I don't have that information in front of me. Sorry about that, but I would try to. I'll have to look that up. But
we'll give you some time on it.
My American is Scotty Scheffler. My international is Rory. My past champion is Rahm. My wild card is Rose, and I'll figure out the first time. And then when we come back, we'll get for sure our final results of our poll question yesterday, and dip into a football discussion. Dane Brugler has come out with something that might interest you as well. I'll have that when we come back on a Tullymore Thursday after this from Avello Air.
Hear that? That's the sound of saving a good deal more when you shop with M Perks at Meijer. Some delicious Cosmic Crisp apples, money saved. Meyer Essential Paper Towels, that's money saved. Savings, savings, savings. Because every dollar spent is also points earned in M-Perks, which you can use to save on your next grocery trip or up to $1 off per gallon on your next tank of gas. At Meyer, we work hard to help you save a good deal more for a whole lot less. That's bringing more good to life. Exclusions apply. See mperks.com for details.
Van Andel Institute Purple Community is a grassroots fundraising network powered by the dedicated volunteers who support VAI's mission to improve human health now and in the future. When you raise funds through the Van Andel Institute Purple Community, 100% of the proceeds go directly to the Institute's research into diseases like cancer and Parkinson's, as well as VAI's science education programs. Learn how you can get involved at purplecommunity.org.
Mitch Lyons here, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth, where we create your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement. I'm here with Tiger legend Kirk Gibson, who we are proud to support and partner with on the newly opened Kirk Gibson Center for Parkinson's Wellness.
Thanks, Mitch. We appreciate your support, and we are excited to have recently opened the center in Farmington Hills. It provides exercise therapy and educational programs that are helping the Parkinson's community. Just like Mitch Lyons Wealth helps improve the quality for their clients' retirements, this center helps improve the quality of life for people with Parkinson's.
And Gibby, the best part of all is that access to the center is available to the Parkinson's community free of charge, right?
That's right, absolutely free of charge for people with Parkinson's and their care partners.
You hit a couple of the most famous home runs in Major League history, Gibby, but I feel that your greatest hit will be the positive impact the Kirk Gibson Center is making in the fight against Parkinson's.
Mitch, since my diagnosis, I get up every day and focus on winning that day. This center encourages others to do the same.
Awesome, Gibby. To learn more, go to kirkgibsoncenter.org.
Coming up later today at 3 on The Huge Show on the Michigan Sports Network, I'll deliver huge opinions on everything you're talking about.
Okay, we've got our picks. Welcome back. X's and Bros, Monday through Friday, 6 until 9. By the way, Bryson DeChambeau tees off at 10:01 this morning. Scotty Scheffler tees off at 1:44 with Robert McIntyre and with Gary Woodland, who's a fantastic story. Early on, this is early, it is Naoki Katoka, who's at 1 under par. He's leading the way through 2 holes. There are 8 players out so far this morning. 8. So in our little game here that Andy and his friends play, which is pretty cool. You take one American, you take one past champion, you take one international player, you take a wild card and a first timer. There are ways to maneuver your way around this where you've got the best players in the world. That doesn't seem like it's very much fun to just take the obvious picks. On the other hand, because of their body of work, you're going to take really good players. So why wouldn't you? So Andy, for the American, he's got Bryson. I've got Scotty. Past champion, he's got Rory. I've got Rahm. International, he's got Sanjay M. I'm going to take Robert McIntyre. All right.
We love that.
Lefty.
We love that switch up right there. Love
the
it.
wild card. This is where Andy's cheating. He's taking Scotty as a wild card. Personally, I don't think that's a wild card. Associate the wild card with other sports. Scotty Scheffler is the equivalent to the Charlotte Hornets. Scotty Scheffler is the equivalent to the Detroit Red Wings if they made it. Scotty Scheffler is the equivalent to, well, I guess this would be in favor of you, the Los Angeles Rams last year.
I don't see any problem with that, if you ask me.
So I think that's a little bit of a cheat by taking the number 1 player in the world as a wild card. He's favored by most. I'd love to know what the criteria of wild card means within your group.
I'm sure that you won't bring that up again if that's why I win this event.
Exactly. I'm taking Justin Rose. Now, he's a 3-time runner-up. Maybe that's not fair either. And then the first timer, you're taking Lopadecki, who is out of Thailand, and I'm taking Chris Gotterup. This is his first Masters. So do I have that right?
That is correct. I'm
okay.
I'm kind of going with a dart throw on that one. Just it won a couple events this year and what he plays in, so we'll see if it plays.
No, I love it. I think that's exactly what you're supposed to do.
I think the wild card slot of that should just all be rewritten. I don't disagree with you. I think it's pretty dumb to call it a wild card, but you can pick anybody you want in the field. It should be just worded differently if that's how they're going to do it. But
yeah, I agree. You're not going to look. You're not taking Mike Weir. You're not taking Fred Couples, but a wild card might be Daniel Berger. That could be something. Anyway, it's a fun game. How many buddies do you have playing in it?
I think we're up to 15 now. But
wow, that's very cool. The only thing I would kind of tweak, and it would be hard to do because you have 15 guys, but you can't take the same guy. You can take the guy. You can take a guy, like if you're going to take as the past champion Rory McIlroy, I might be able to take him as my international, but you can't duplicate somebody else's within the the type of competition.
That's where you'd have to go into it and do a draft, which I would like to do. It's just the organizing of that and getting people to do it sometimes is tough. But I mean, sometimes you start producing a morning show as your new job and you're kind of busy for a little bit. But
yeah, but that should help you.
Yes,
because you're studying it.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah, for
you're
sure.
Ready for it. Yeah, that's the way I kind of look at it. I guess if you were going to do that, which I think again, I think it's really cool that you guys are doing this because I'd love to do it. And be part of something like that. But if you're going to do something like that, you really have to know, there's no question you have to know your golf. And more importantly, you have to know who the course favors. And there is, like, for example, if you're going to do a wild card, or if you're going to do, what would you guys consider the wild card? There's a guy named Casey Jarvis who has 3 wins on the Euro Tour, who might be one of those guys would be a good wild card.
I love that. That to me is the aspect of more randomness and you don't know as much about it. That's what it should be if that's what the category is going to be called.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of where I'm looking at. You know, the easy thing to do is take the guy, but in the end, look, on Monday when somebody's celebrating, do you think anybody's going, Well, kudos to you, Andy, because you took a guy nobody ever heard of in Lopetegui. No, they're just talking about the guy who won the event. So
Absolutely. I mean, if that's
win,
why I
take
win the
the
event,
rules,
if
yeah.
he somehow has the weekend of his life and makes it, past the cut, then I guess that's what they'd be talking about. But I'm not going to forecast that happening or anything crazy like that.
I guess I look at a wild card as a 12 seed in the NCAA tournament.
Sure, makes complete sense to me.
And when you have all these other names that you and I have chosen, it's not just you and I have chosen, it seems like they're at least 1 or 2 seeds. Scotty Scheffler's a 1 seed. Bryson DeChambeau would be a 1 seed. Rory McIlroy would be a 1 seed. For me, if I looked at it, I got Scotty. Rahm would probably be a 2 seed. Okay. Robert McIntyre would probably be a 2 or 3. Justin Rose would probably be more like a 5 or a 6. Goddard would probably be a 9 or a 10. Casey Jarvis would definitely be, a 12 seed, something like that. Anyway, good stuff. I appreciate that. We'll follow that. We'll keep it and see what we got coming into on Monday. We'll actually update it a little bit. I mean, if you've got one of your favorites, let us know via the text, Sports Radio 21,000, or you can join us in the chat on YouTube, on Facebook, and on X. Dane Brugler is one of those guys who I really respect his football opinion. He does a lot of hard work. His NFL draft guide is an absolute must. Okay. He does over 400 profiles. He does over 2,700 rankings. He uses 45,000 verified measurements and writes almost 300,000 words every year for this. It's amazing. It's called The Beast. So 2026 Beast, where he's going to sort out 2,700 players, position by position, school by school, draft grades, and everything else. So it tells you about how much work and effort he puts into this. So I greatly respect him. He breaks it down with the top 10 overall. Then he goes by position. So here's his top 10. And again, as we get closer to the draft, maybe these are some of the things you might want to remember. Arvell Reese has his number 1. He's the linebacker for Ohio State. And I think a lot of people have him going 2 overall. Jeremiah Love is number 2. He's the running back for Notre Dame. Fernando Mendoza, number 3, which I found interesting. Sonny Styles, number 4. Caleb Downs, number 5. There's a trend there. 3 of his top 5 are from the Ohio State University. Mansour Delaney, the cornerback from LSU at number 6. Then David Bailey, the pass rush edge rusher from Texas Tech. Spencer Fano, the lineman for Utah. Ruben Bain, the defensive end from Miami. People are ripping on the length of his arms, but he's productive. And then Carnell Tate, number 10, the wide receiver. All right. So you have 4 of his top 10 played for Ohio State, which begs the question, how did you not win the damn national championship last year? But I digress. Here's his top 10 quarterbacks. Fernando Mendoza, Ty Simpson, Garrett Nussmeier, Drew Aller, Cole Payton, the kid out of North Dakota State, who I wouldn't mind the Lions taking as a 4th-round draft pick. Carson Beck, and then Talon Green. Cade Klubnik, Haynes King, Georgia Tech, athletic kid. Joe Fagnano from UConn. There's your top 10. And he's got really 99 quarterbacks overall that he did research on. Let me get to the linemen, since this is where we think the Lions are going. All right? Linemen and defensive linemen. Eventually, I think they're going to take a tight end. Who that tight end is, Max Clare, Oscar Delp. He's the kid out of Georgia. I don't know. He's got Marlon Klein at number 10 for Michigan. He's a mid-round draft pick, good size, good blocker, tenacious for the most part. Wasn't used a whole lot last year, unfortunately for him. Did get hurt a little bit. I know that's a whistle. That's a dog whistle for Lions fans. Oh my God, he was hurt, so let's do it. He's ranked at Dane Brugler's number 10. If Detroit could get him in the middle rounds, I'd definitely be happy with that. They're going to need a tight end, folks. I'm not saying you go out and get the number 1 tight end, which is Kenyon Sadiq. He's out of Oregon. But if you got a top 10 tight end in the middle of the draft, you should feel pretty lucky. Offensive tackles. Here we go. Ready? The number 1 is Spencer Fano, obviously. Then it's Francis Mauigoa. He's from Miami. Then it's Monroe Freeling, the guy that I've been tooting his horn for over 2 months now. Then it's Caden Proctor, who yesterday, Daniel Jeremiah said, the floor for Caden Proctor is 17 with the Lions. He will not get past the Detroit Lions. If you look at Caden Proctor and his athleticism at 6'7", 352 pounds. I want you to think about that for a minute, Andy. 6'7", 352 pounds. He lost 40 pounds a year ago. I know there's some people who on social media are saying, I'm worried about his weight. When you have a nutritionist like the Lions have, a strength and conditioning coach like the Lions have, and you have coaches like Hank Freely who can help him get better, I think you're going to be okay. Now, granted, Alabama's got a good strength and conditioning situation too. And I know some people feel like the Lions fall in love with Alabama guys. Do you blame them? It's one of the premier programs year in and year out in college football. Just because you may have been burned by Terrion Arnold doesn't mean you stop drafting Alabama players. Anyway, they got Caden Proctor 4, Caleb Lomu from Utah at 5. There's a lot of people who feel like he might be better off moved inside. Blake Miller at 6. He's the tackle out of Clemson who started every game there. And so on and so forth. So I think Detroit's going to get a good tackle at 17 if that's the route they take. There's no question at guard, the Vega Ionye is number 1. He's an absolute beast. He's thick. He's nasty. He's a mauler. He's going to be a starter from day one, and he's going to stay there for a long time if he stays healthy. If the Lions took him, I would not be unhappy. And here's the reason why, before you jump to conclusions, because what is the biggest problem Jared Goff experienced a year ago? Pressure in his face. He can always step up. Yaonye, Mays, and Ratledge would make up a trio inside that might bring us reminiscent of a couple of years ago. I'm not saying that Mays is better than Ragnow. I'm not saying Ratledge is better than Zeitler. And there's no question that Yaonye would be better than Graham Glasgow at left guard. But you would give much, considering the lack of pressures that Cade Mays allowed a year ago and Tate Ratledge allowed a year ago based on Pro Football Focus, that trio in the middle would be one of the best in the NFC. Defensive ends, and this is what a lot of people want to hear about. They want to know about the centers, the edge rushers. So here's who you have. Arvell Reese, David Bailey, Reuben Bain, Keldrick Falk from Auburn. He would be available at 17. Akeem Messidor, he might be available there too. TJ Parker would be available. Malachi Lawrence, he's out of Pitt, or UCF rather. Zion Young out of Missouri. Cassius Howell, Texas A&M, could be a second-round pick. And then R. Mason Thomas out of Oklahoma. Howell, just so you know, lacks consistency, according to Dane Brugler, but has the twitch, the speed, the demeanor required for success. I like that. Lastly, let me just bring up the corners, okay? Detroit's going to look for a linebacker. A lot of people love Kyle Lewis. He's not your traditional linebacker because he's not that big. But he's got great vision and great speed. He's out of Pitt. He has him as the number 7 linebacker. I wanted to get to the corners because most people feel like that is a position that Detroit's going to have to address. Mansour Delaney from LSU, Jermod McCoy from Tennessee, Chris Johnson, San Diego State. You notice the first two are SEC players. It's one of the reasons I kind of like Caden Proctor and why I love Monroe Freeling. They are going up against some of the best rushers year in and year out when they're playing. Who are they up against? They're up against the guys like Keldrick Falk, for example, who are getting after the passer, like Cassius Howell, like R. Mason Thomas. You look at the edge rushers, and you'll see a lot of SEC guys. That means the tackles in the SEC have to be really stout. They have to be really good. And if you're doing that and you're not allowing pressures, then you're in pretty good shape. So Colton Hood from Tennessee at 5. D'Angelo Pons from Indiana at 6. Undersized but tough. Brandon Sisse from South Carolina. Traden Stukes from Arizona. Keith Abney out of Arizona State. And then Ohio State's got another one in there. So just some names for you to think about as the draft gets a little bit closer. That's not the Bible, but it's a really good resource. Dane Brugler's Beast where how much he puts together for 2026. A couple of names for you, more than a couple, something that you might recognize when their name is called. Final results of the poll question. Let's get to it. We have one for you every single day. We give them to you on Twitter at XB Mornings. You can follow us. And I retweet it at ShepMatt. It's brought to you by Mitch Lyons Wealth and MitchLyonsWealth.com. Here's the Mitch Lyons Wealth poll question from yesterday. When you think of the Lions, what do you think of? Barry Sanders, Calvin Johnson, those are the positives. Heartache or poor ownership, those are the negatives. We balanced it. Andy and I balanced it. We gave a glass half full for a couple and a glass half empty for the other half. What did people have to say?
Well, you got Barry Sanders at 33%, which I think is fair. Calvin Johnson at 0 is kind of surprising to me, just with maybe like a recency bias or something like that with the player. But I think this part is kind of the recency bias with Heartache taking it at 48%. That was the highest vote. I feel like people are upset right now, even with some of the offseason maybe. And then this also could play into it. Poor ownership was at 19%. So that was third place in the vote for the last part.
All right. So what you're looking at is you're looking at Heartache, then Barry Sanders, then poor ownership. I think the problem with the Calvin Johnson is when you think of players, you strictly think of Barry Sanders. Like Joe Schmidt was an incredible player. Nobody's thinking of him. I thought Chris Spielman was a hell of a player. People aren't thinking of him. They're thinking of Barry first and foremost because he's arguably the best at what he's done. I don't know if you could ever say that about Calvin Johnson. As much as I'd like him, no one's putting him over Jerry Rice. Probably not putting him over Randy Moss. Barry Sanders, when people talk about the greatest running backs of all time, he's in that conversation. You've seen it on social media, 4 squares. Give me the best running back. Walter Payton, Barry Sanders, Jim Brown, Emmitt Smith. Who doesn't fit here? You see that all the time on social media, right? Barry Sanders is at least in that conversation. Speaking of conversation, tomorrow we're going to have a conversation about the Frozen Four. Well, let's not lose sight. I get it, man. People are still basking a little bit in the glow, if you're a Michigan fan, of Michigan's basketball national championship, the first since 1989. Can they win the hockey championship? They play Denver tonight. Wisconsin.
Nobody's done that yet either. Nobody has won the men's Final Four and the Frozen Four in the same year.
That's correct. They've won the men's and women's basketball championships. They've won basketball and football. They've won football and hockey because Michigan did that in 97, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but I'm pretty sure. What's that? Yeah, football and hockey. So, but have they ever done basketball and hockey? There's not enough of the basketball powerhouses, North Carolina, Duke, Kentucky, UConn, who have a hockey program or a good hockey program because UConn's got a hockey program. Anyway, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Tigers series wrap-up. We'll talk about the Red Wings as they play Philadelphia tonight and, of course, round 1 of the Masters. Thank you for some of your time today. We're back with you tomorrow morning, 6 o'clock here on X's and Bros on the Michigan Sports Network.
In the den.
DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today and use code HUGE for a special offer when you sign up. That code is HUGE, only at DraftKings Sportsbook.
This is Matt Shepard. It's well known the Tigers are left-handed heavy in their lineup. Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter, Kevin McGonigal, Cole Keith, Parker Meadows all make up the majority of their regular players. Being that heavy-handed from the left side can have its advantages against right-handed pitching, including today's series wrap-up with Minnesota and their right-handed starter, Mick Abel. By facing Abel, the Tigers will have faced 13 straight righties to start the season, the most since 2019 when the team stared down 18 right-handed starters in a row. Fortunately, the Tigers' best hitters are southpaws, including Cole Keith, who entered Wednesday's game with an on-base streak of 7 in a row.
Mitch Lyons here, founder of Mitch Lyons Wealth, where we create your best game plan to protect, grow, and win retirement. I'm here with Tiger legend Kirk Gibson, who we are proud to support and partner with on the newly opened Kirk Gibson Center for Parkinson's Wellness.
Thanks, Mitch. We appreciate your support, and we are excited to have recently opened the center in Farmington Hills. It provides exercise therapy and educational programs that are helping the Parkinson's community. just like Mitch Lyons Wealth helps improve the quality for their clients' retirements. This center helps improve the quality of life for people with Parkinson's.
And Gibby, the best part of all is that access to the center is available to the Parkinson's community free of charge, right?
That's right, absolutely free of charge for people with Parkinson's and their care partners.
You hit a couple of the most famous home runs in Major League history, Gibby, but I feel that your greatest hit will be the positive impact the Kirk Gibson Center is making in the fight against Parkinson's.
Mitch, since my diagnosis, I get up every day and focus on winning that day. This center encourages others to do the same.
Awesome, Gibby. To learn more, go to kirkgibsoncenter.org.
Huge here for all the ABC warehouse stores in Michigan. Your home for the biggest TVs and the biggest deals on TVs. Think about watching the Masters this weekend and you have a big screen, the biggest one you've ever had. You can get a huge deal right now at your local ABC warehouse store. They also are dropping huge savings on appliances, furniture, mattresses, and more at your local ABC warehouse store all across Michigan.
Hear that? That's the sound of saving a good deal more when you shop with M-Perks at Meijer. Some delicious Cosmic Crisp apples, money saved. Meijer Essential Paper Towels, that's money saved. Savings, savings, savings. Because every dollar spent is also points earned in M-Perks, which you can use to save on your next grocery trip or up to $1 off per gallon on your next tank of gas. At Meijer, we work hard to help you save a good deal more for a whole lot less. That's bringing more good to life. Exclusions apply. See mperks.com for details.
Make sure you